Okay, so in this video we're going to show you how you can create your Snake Eyes console plate. This is the thing that we will laser cut. You have one lesson to do this, so we've got to work pretty quickly. I'm going to show you how I took this basic template and turned it into this, okay? So if we start with the basics, I'm going to zoom in here. The placement of your holes for your LEDs can be changed and edited just by clicking and moving them. Alright, so you could change that. Now if you did that and you made everything smaller, then you could change the parameters and the size of the square that's around it. The square is a red square because we need to make sure that it etches onto the surface of our material as opposed to laser cutting into it. Alright, so if I move this into a position like this, I can think about adapting the shape of this square and making it slightly smaller. Alright, so let's start by doing that. Okay, now if I want to change that and give it some radiused corners, I can go into the arc tool, go all the way to the end here, a filleted arc between two lines, and I can change the radius. I'm going to go for 5mm, and I click on the two lines and it will automatically create the fillet. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. Right, now I've got that, I can think about other aspects of the plate that I want to adapt and change. These fixing point holes must stay in the same position, here and here, and here and here. And the switches must also stay in the same position, as must the text, but we can change the text itself. So if I click on this and I go to property, and then I go to settings, I can change how it looks. So I'm going to change it to a different type of font, like Artifact Element, for example, or Deco, and click OK. And then OK again, and it might change the font. So let's do a completely different one down here for the roll. You can get all sorts of different effects. So if I go for regular, and I go OK, OK, that will give me a different font altogether. Now, if I want to adapt that further, I can change the way it's going to fill that material. So at the moment, if I zoom in onto that, you'll see that it's got a fill of different hatched lines. The reason we do this is because we can't fill it with a colour, because the laser cutter won't print or etch it. So if I come up here to fill, alright, I can change this to different types of hatching. At the moment I've got it as a single hatching, diagonal lines. I can change the angle that those lines are, and the spacing is at 1mm at the moment. Let's change that to cross hatching. I can go into line style and I can change that as well. Okay, let's give that a go and see what we get. So we get something a little bit like this. Alright, I might be happy with that, I might not be. If I'm not, I can do back step by going back over here, undo. Now, you can do the same thing for things like this square here. This is a square. I can fill this with hatching, and I need to make sure that the lines are red, not black, otherwise it will laser cut them. And I can adapt the spacing and the angle of my fill. Okay. Now it doesn't matter that it's covering these black holes because they will cut away, leaving me with the holes to fit my LED bulbs in. I can come up here and I can also edit this font by taking a look at the properties and then the settings and then adapting it. Okay. Okay, you might decide that you like that but you want to shift it around a little bit. That's absolutely fine. I can double click on these and I can move these over to this side. Now I've kept gridlock on so that I can move them sequential spacings and keep things nice and organized. There's space for you to come up with some sort of visual up at the top here. So if you want to do something like a dice, you could just do a simple square and you could do two of them. Now the issue with these, of course, they need to be red lines as opposed to black lines, because that would laser cut them out. Alright, now if I want to create something like I've done here, where I've got this kind of pattern all the way through, I can do that quite easily. I'm going to go to this particular function here and go to draw a contour selected object. Okay, there's all sorts of things here to play around with, but the one that we need is that one. Okay, nothing has been selected, so click on it, select this option and change the contour spacing and the number of contours to whatever you want. So if I go for 5 contours, 2mm spacing, making sure it's on the inside of my shape, it will create something like this. But again, I need to make sure these are the right sizes and the right colours for my design. So I'm going to change these to red, and I'm happy with that. Okay. From there, you'll be left with a file that you can save and upload to Teams for your teacher to successfully cut.